Welcome in, everybody, to a new episode of The Glue Guys. I'm Landen Lucas. That's my dad, Richard Lucas, and we are now on episode, do you know?
I do, because it said it on the little line for the Zoom meeting.
So what episode? I didn't even look at that. Are we 12 now or?
No, 13, episode 13.
13.
Lucky number 13.
Okay. All right, well, lucky number 13. We got the Big 12 tournament coming up, starting yesterday, actually. Today is Kansas's game. And as a guest today, we have Hudy, which some of you may remember from her strength coach days at Kansas. Now she's at Texas, so
Yeah.
we'll be playing them pretty soon. But we want to bring her on, talk some Kansas memories. I tried to set it up because of the Big 12 tournament. You know, the biggest highlight that I remember from my time at the Big 12 tournament?
Well, there's a lot of them, because
the big
ones.
The one with the uncle involved.
With
too.
the uncle, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I would say. Okay, that's what I'm saying. That was a big one.
Yeah, Wayne's dunk against Baylor. I tried to set it up where we could get Wayne and his uncle on, but Wayne unfortunately is overseas and timing and everything is tough. But we got Hudy, so we're gonna go ahead and bring Hudy on and talk a little bit with her.
Awesome.
Hi there.
Hudy, what's up? How you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. How you been?
No, good, really good.
Yeah, I see you got the UConn shirt on.
I should probably lower that. I'll lower that.
I know, right? Are you in Kansas City right now for the Big 12, or are you still in Austin?
No, you know I'm at UConn now. I'm back at UConn.
You're back at UConn, really? How long have you been at UConn for now?
Since May.
Really?
Yeah, just women's basketball.
Really? So how's that been? Good?
It's been awesome. I started my PhD, studying a little bit more of the stuff that we were doing and getting a little deeper into the weeds with it. So it's all good.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your time at Kansas. Obviously, we spent some time together, and this is a Kansas podcast, so I know the Kansas fans would love to hear it. But what would you say stood out to you the most, the differences between, I know now you've been, the last few programs you've been at was UConn to start, right, with their men's and women's, and then you went Kansas and then Texas. You were just men's basketball at Texas, or did you do more?
I did men's and women's basketball, oversaw women's basketball, was primarily with men's basketball at Texas.
Okay, and then now back to UConn. What do you see as, like, are there any differences that you feel when you're in those programs, or are they all about the same, from your experience there?
Well, I think coaches are a little bit different, I believe, in some approaches, depending on, I guess where they are, specifically what they have in terms of resources or what the culture is. But, all of the places that I've been, we've won. And I think that having people who care about each other and people who put the team in front of their own goals, I think is the formula for success, and people coming together and, working hard and optimally.
Hey, so, I just want to, I don't know if you remember me or not. I came on a recruiting visit a long time ago. And I will say I'm pleasantly surprised that you did have UConn fine. That's your current job, so that's not a problem. I thought you were still at Texas as well and was wearing a UConn. I'm like, man, she's got all kinds of identities. There's no what's going on.
I do.
But I wanted to ask you about when I grew up, when I was in college, we just had the strength and conditioning coach who was great, Jimmy Radcliffe. He was amazing, but he was a football guy, and he did things with us. And so, how did you convince programs that, hey, to have somebody who's really focused on the specific athlete that is a basketball player, that makes sense? How did you kind of work your way through that to get coaches to buy in?
I think You know, I had to buy into, and we all buy into the cultures of the programs that we work with. And for me, I feel like it's been a fit everywhere I've been in terms of having high standards, making things competitive, people who always want to have a growth mindset and get better. Um, you know, specifically working with basketball, I always thought they were defensive backs in football. So I have a background in football also. I've worked with football, and they're very similar athletes, rugby, defensive backs in football, basketball players. But anymore, it's like you find so many different people specializing in one thing on the basketball court. So when you specialize in one thing on the basketball court, Landon was a banger, you know, so he liked to take contact, and is very different than, you know, let's say Joel Embiid, who is a very different player. So the technology that I've been using for the last probably at least 10 years shows us who these people are, you know, as an athlete, and then how they play as a basketball player. And anymore, I'm not pushing numbers for things of amount of weight lifted in the weight room. What we look at is, are we having an effect on how they play the sport, and how efficient their numbers are on the court and what they're producing. So if I can help facilitate that, that's what we're looking for.
You've always been really good, and something I noticed was whenever there was some nuance or something that you saw that you liked and stuff, you would bring it into the weight room. You never, you know, stuck to something. You know, you would always, if there was something you felt could improve the way that you train, you would integrate that into your training. My question to you is, throughout, you know, your time now, you know, in all the different programs, what's been the biggest change you think you've made to the way that you train your players now?
Feeding into the individual and really understanding, one, who they are, what motivates them, what specifically needs they have, because everybody's had injuries, and what injuries do they have in the past that could affect injuries in the future, because that's the biggest predictor of injuries. So what can we do? And I was an injured athlete, and that's why I think my injury cut my career short. So it's like, I don't want that for other people. So I've been on a quest to you know, not only increase performance, but more importantly, availability of the athlete. Can they play? And I feel like that's been the primary driver for me recently.
So you talked a little bit about, you know, you had some injuries, and that's kind of driving how you view what you do. But I'm curious, how did you get involved in this area to begin with? Like, is this something that you always wanted to do, or was it something that you kind of fell into because of your own sports history?
I think all of the above. I was the youngest of 5 kids, so I was always trying to play catch up, and it was competitive. I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, so I don't know if I necessarily had the resources to rehab injuries properly. So I feel like I'm coming full circle with who I am as a person to, you know, start my PhD here. And right now I'm in a class with the physical therapy department, and we're running some of the numbers on the technology that we use to make sure that we're actually doing the right thing. And I feel like at this point I have answers to the test, and I don't know the questions yet. So a lot of the technology is showing me trends, but why are those trends happening? Or I think are the answers that I want answered, or the questions I want answered.
All right, Hudy, I want to get into a KU question now. I want you to build your perfect basketball athlete out of former Kansas players. So you got, you know, footwork, speed, strength, jumping, quick twitch, all that stuff. Who are you using? And please, you know, don't use me for all of them. I know that I was top of the line, but I mean, spread it out a little bit, you know.
Well, yeah, I think everybody, right, had their own shtick, and everybody was a little bit different. But for me, statistically, what I've seen, the perfect basketball athlete looks like Andrew Wiggins. You know, he very elastic, very strong per pound of body weight, healthy, mobile, could create strength. His mom was I think she was a 200 or 400 meter runner. Yes. I believe a 400 meter runner. He was very mobile, very could maintain speed. But then Dad was an NBA player who was quick and reactive, and he was kind of the perfect mold of like, even his tissue was very pliable, you know. but he could create his strength like that.
You remember the game, I think it was Kansas State, that coach always used to tell us about, where he missed a shot or something like that, landed, I think, almost 2 feet out of bounds on the bottom baseline, and then somehow beat everybody back. He jumped backwards, like no gather anything, landed and jumped backwards and got the rebound and tipped it in, I'm pretty sure. And I remember Coach Self the next day in film was just showing that on repeat, like, I mean, this is I mean, we all can't do that, unfortunately, but like that was something that he was just amazed by. And you know, when Coach Self, who's coached some athletes, when he's going back to film and showing that over and over again, there must have been something special. I remember that one.
Ben McLemore was like that too. Josh Jackson was like that. Those longer, leaner guys tend to be very elastic.
Yeah.
Those are
unfortunately, Landen had me as a father. So
no sprinter or anything. Come on now.
So sorry.
We did get better though, Lando, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure.
That's true.
The difference between when I first got in there and when I left was definitely night and day. We worked a ton on a lot of stuff.
No question. And it was amazing, the transformation that you had. And so I just love, and this is the part of this podcast that I absolutely love, is the fact that, you know, there's such a passion when you are part of Kansas basketball. There's something about it. And so I guess my question to you is you were there for how many years were you?
15
years. What was, can you think of a memory that stands out, or a game that stands out that you're just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't sleep that night afterwards?
I remember triple overtime in Allen Fieldhouse. Buddy Hield played for OU. Was that when you were there, Lando?
Yeah. I was a part of that.
That was pretty nuts. The Missouri game when Thomas blocked that final shot. You know, obviously winning a national championship in 2008. But, you know, I think what was probably the most impressive thing is winning 14 Big 12 championships in a row, and the consistency of which things operated. You know, it was a finely tuned machine of people coming in and out of there and being successful and consistent. And that's the most important thing.
What about weight room stories? You got any that you remember from your Kansas days that stick out to you when people ask? I know you have some, because I remember some myself. I know there's something.
Yeah, we have a lot of those. I don't think people would appreciate me telling those stories, though.
That's true. You got to be careful with which ones you tell. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't have any specific weight room ones, but I feel like, you know, the one thing that I pride myself on are the relationships that, you know, were built and continue to prosper. And, you know, just I feel like hopefully people feel the same about me and what they learned there and that relationship.
Well, one thing I'll say is, you know, from the moment that I came in, there was such a respect that was instilled in me and the freshmen and everybody by the older guys and the coaches to show towards you. And like, it was, I don't remember anybody ever even needed to be checked on that for the most part. You know, like everybody had such great respect for you. Is that something that, you know, you always felt came easy for you, or was there a point in time where like that was difficult? You know, obviously coming into coaching a men's basketball team, there's not many women who are out there doing that. I mean, how you know, was that for you? And did you ever find that there was any struggle with that, or has it always just been, you know,
I can't say it's been easy. I can, you know, I think any coach or any person who's trying to do well in an environment might have a little bit of a shell, and I guess work through that. You know, it's hard being a male in female in female sports. It's hard being a female in male sports. Like, you know, you got to respect all of that because you're navigating your way through locker rooms, through staff meetings, through people want your opinion, you know, all those things. So yeah, I think trying to have high standards for yourself then you can have high standards for others. So hopefully that was the case.
For sure.
So now you've come full circle back to UConn. And so is there a major difference between the strength and conditioning of the female athlete versus the male athlete? Or do you use just literally the same techniques because basketball's basketball?
Yeah, I use the same techniques for the most part. There's a couple things that you take into consideration when training males versus females, but hormonal fluctuations are higher in women. So, you got to try to pay attention to that. Bone density too. But for the most part, I always say that I try to work the women 20% harder than I always work the men, because we only make 80 cents on the dollar to what a guy does. We got to work harder anyway.
They must be working hard then. They must be working really hard.
So it's good though. It's pretty much the same. And in high level people in anything are competitive and work hard.
Yeah. What would be who you would say you saw develop the most during your time at Kansas, from the time that you got to start with them, to finish? I remember a ton. I mean, one that I remember seeing the beginning of was Udoka's transformation. But is there anything that stands out to you as somebody who made a huge transformation through working with you?
Yeah, I think Doak was one. The Morris twins. I'll put those guys in the same bucket. Almost an identical person, where they developed really, like, I remember one time, and you know how those winters are in February and you're like just dragging through them. And I remember I think it was Marcus on a scale and Markeef, and they were like 210 and 212 pounds. Like, if you could imagine that their freshman year. And it was like, they were struggling, but to have them become successful and rise above it. And I'm sure when they were at their peak at Kansas, they were 242. So who knows what they are now, but that was a tough journey for them. Sharon was another one.
Yeah.
You were good. I feel like there's an effect with most people in terms of whether you're trying to build a higher performing athlete or a healthier one. So what's the goal, and I hopefully had an effect on people there.
Yeah, you learn so much. When you come in, you got guys who are coming in so young sometimes. We had Svi come in at 16 or 15 or something like that. He was so young still, and you got guys who still don't understand. I remember Joel eating brownies for every meal.
Right.
I wasn't really caring about, what I was eating. I was redshirt freshman year. I was eating pizza twice
Chipotle.
a day with noodles. I would do the noodles and lemon pepper every night, before I go to sleep and stuff. So it was something that you don't come in with. But by the time I left, and especially now looking back on it, you just mature so much through that and learn so much. And from, getting hardly any instruction in high school and as a kid to then having the top of the line, it doesn't get any better than the stuff that you provided for us. That was a huge, just that alone will make anybody move forward. And then obviously the work that you put in helps, push that even more. Well,
and that's what most people don't see is that growth and development. They probably see 1% of it on TV, where there's a whole, iceberg underneath the surface of the water that's going on. And that, the guys, the athletes, they need to take credit for that, because that's a huge accomplishment.
For sure.
So what's next for you? I know, you're at UConn at this point in time, but do you have aspirations to be part of a WNBA program or an NBA program? Or are you kind of like, hey, I'm kind of cool what I'm doing and where I'm at?
I'm really happy where I am, because I am growing. The one thing that I've always taken pride in is learning myself. So being a PhD student here, working with one of the best women's programs ever, working with the top basketball players on the women's side, I'm studying that. And, the other thing coming back here, I now qualified for an early retirement package. So that was pretty enticing too. So I could retire, or I could, blow up the universe. Let's see. But I
Let's
would
see.
tell you that I'm preparing for whatever the future holds, so who knows what that is and what opportunities may come.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on and giving us your time. It's always nice to talk with you and catch up. And I know it's been a little while, but it was really nice to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's good to see you. And you're a father now, right?
I am a father. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
He's the best. I enjoy it. I love it. It's been fun.
Yeah, but the grandfather's probably having a better time with this one, huh?
Hey, I'm telling you, this is the best thing ever. I get to go, I play, I hang out. He gets fussy or needs to be changed. I'm out. I've raised 3 boys. I'm done with that part of it. So
that's awesome. Well, congratulations to you both.
Thank you very much.
So great to see you.
All right. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Before we move on to our next segment, let me tell you a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers. If you haven't already signed up with Bet Rivers, now's the time because they're offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is they only require 1 playthrough to turn your bonus into cash. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. Be sure to head over to betrivers.com today or download the Bet Rivers app. You must be 21 years or older. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Well, that was good catching up with her. I feel kind of bad. I thought she was still in Texas, but that was bad recently. We got to get better at this.
Where's the research department here? Come on. What's going on?
Aren't we supposed to have like a team that's doing this, and feeding us?
Yes, we do. That's you.
No, I'm not. No,
you're the team. You're the booking agent. You're the talent.
No,
you're the team.
The team. We have a small team. We have Matthew too. By the way, our producer Matthew, he's on other shows. He's killing it and stuff. I've seen him.
Okay.
So I mean, he's doing his thing, and we're just trying to piece it together.
What? Because we're glue guys, right?
Exactly.
That's what glue guys do. You just take what you got, what you can get. You do the best you can.
Yes, yes. Well, real quick, we have this Big 12 tournament coming up. So, you have any thoughts on it? Who's your winner in this Big 12 tournament?
So, this is a tough one because, first of all, like any tournament, you're dealing with that second season. Sometimes people talk about 4 seasons: the non-conference, conference, and the conference tournament, and then the NCAA tournament, but this is tough because the Big 12 is deep. It's got some really good teams. It felt almost like the parity this year from the top to the bottom is about as good that I've seen in a while. There's no gimmies. And so it's with KU dealing with some of the injuries that they've been dealing with and a couple of L's recently, I as much as I don't want to say it, but I kind of don't know if KU gets through this and wins this whole thing. So I kind of, in my gut, tells me that it's a Baylor win of the Big 12 and that they're going to get it done. Doesn't mean that NCAA tournament, and we can have a whole nother discussion once the brackets come out and the pathways and stuff like that. But your question to me is this week, who is the winner of it? And I would have to choose Baylor Bears in the end.
No, I see what you're saying, and it's a really strong defensive, conference. So all it takes is one bad shooting night where you can't get anything going and whatnot. The one thing I will say is, Coach Self is going to spin this. I've been on both sides. I've been on the early exit side. I've been on the championship side of it, and both of them really weren't much different going into tournament time because you have 2 ways that he's going to word it. Either they're going to drop one early, maybe they run into a Texas or a TCU or something that set next round, or I doubt they lose to West Virginia, but maybe they run into something where they lose and he's going to flip it as, oh, we get this extra time to rest, we're good. Like now we got some injuries. I promise you the first words that come out are going to be something about that because ultimately what's most important is what's coming up next. Is March Madness. And so it's either going to go that way, or if you do, have a good run, what he's going to word it as is momentum, keep this momentum going.
Yes.
And so I think really, you know, it's going to be fun. Obviously, we want to win. But there's some teams that's like, I remember Iowa State Iowa State's fans. That was their Super Bowl. I mean,
exactly.
They traveled. They would sometimes have more fans of the Power and Light District
Right.
than the Kansas fans. And, you know, they would come into Kansas City, take it over. And those guys, I remember Naz Long, who used to play there, who was a high school teammate of mine. That's like, he would be sending me messages all year. Well, we're going to get you in the Big 12. We own like this and that. Like, that's all they cared about was that Big 12 tournament. They showed us of how hard they played, you know, during those few days. And so it's going to come down to that. I think that if it's not, if I'm filling out a bracket, obviously Kansas, I have to.
Yeah, of course.
But if I'm not, I would go with Tech. I think that they would, you know, have a good run and play well. But it's going to take a team that has a lot of energy. You know, TCU, if they could play like they did at home against Kansas, you know, with that same amount of energy and intensity, next thing you know, they're getting past Texas. And, you know, they got a team that just a week ago they bullied. You know, obviously Kansas got them back, but they had Allen Fieldhouse and it was still close. So,
well, I will say a couple things about this. First of all, the Big 12 tournament, when you're Kansas, just like you said, whether you do well or not, Self's going to spin it so that, because in the end, it really kind of doesn't matter, right? You know, because it's that NCAA tournament, because the selection committee is probably not going to hammer KU. KU's not going to all of a sudden be a fifth seed because they lose in the semis to someone, right? I mean, you're still going to be you're not going to be a top line, but you're still going to be a 2-3 range, I would imagine, right? So that part doesn't worry me. I do want to talk to you real quick about that Texas game, and the fact that, you know, I'm wondering. I thought that that Texas coach, his name escapes me at the time, at the moment, but
Chris or something.
Yeah, that guy who was at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
You know, I thought he did a pretty masterful coaching job in that game, and I think one of the things that was very Belichick, in the sense that he was like, I'm going to take away your best player.
Well, he's done that twice now. He's done that at Texas and successfully twice with Ochai. And I wonder how much it has to do with Jaren's Howard, you know, pulling over and knowing that, like, I mean, Coach Self, for the most part, his plays are so good that he really doesn't switch them up much. He's like, all right, you know what we're going to run, try to stop it. But, you know, he knows some of the small things about how he may be trying to get Ochai involved. So, I mean, yeah, that was impressive that now twice, two for two on having somebody, you know, go out there and a game plan to eliminate, you know, the national player of the year in some people's eyes.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying, is that it's, you know, what happens if somebody, not that you can blueprint, you know, Kansas, you know, itself is too good. He's going to figure things out. But I just was really impressed by how they made Ochai's life miserable out there. And it was so difficult for him to get any type of a clean shot, and it completely disrupted things for Kansas often. And so you have to start figuring out other ways. And I just remember thinking, man, what's Bill Belichick do all the time, right? I'm taking away your best player.
Somebody else has to be
option. If somebody else kills this, so be it. But it's not going to be this guy.
No, it's a good question, and it's going to be interesting to see come tournament time, you know, how teams are going to prepare for that, obviously with the quick turnaround and whatnot. So we'll see, and hopefully Kansas can figure it out. I'm worried. The thing that worries me the most is a team that does that. It's very physical, and refs that just let, you know, anything. You get a ref or, you know, reffing group that is just like, we're just going to let them play, and they are just completely, you know, taking Ochai out the game, being physical, and, you know, kind of like that TCU game. If you get something like that and Ochai's out, it's going to be tough to, you know, win a tournament game.
Yeah. And that coach is Chris Beard. And he was at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And then he went over to Texas. So, this is a guy who's had a ton of success, even prior to his time at Texas Tech as well.
He's a good coach for sure.
He's definitely a great coach, and so it just and that's what you really want, though. If you think about it, you want great coaches in your conference because it makes games really relevant. Because when Texas, it's important, I think, for Texas to be relevant in the Big 12.
Program, yeah.
It's a big time program, and it's important. And so I think he's done a masterful job. And I didn't want this to be a Chris Beard love show, but I just remember watching that, going, "Gosh, the guy's coaching his butt off,"
Yeah.
and he's done a great job. So those games were closer than I thought. I thought they were going to be blowouts for KU, but we'll see how it all plays out here in the next week.
Yeah. Yes, we will. Well,
are we doing a specific Selection Sunday show or something? Or are we?
We can. I mean, sure. Why not? We can do whatever we want. So.
That's true, right?
So
we don't have anybody, other than Matthew. It's just us, right? We're just,
Let's do something, and we'll fill out some brackets. Maybe we'll have our producer Matthew fill out one too, and we'll all get on here and talk about some of the matchups, and maybe take it a little bit focused on Kansas route through, but obviously cover everything as well. And we could. When is that? This coming Sunday?
Yes.
So we got to get on it then.
Yes, we do need to get on it.
We'll get something set up. Maybe we'll have a guest come join us also.
Yeah. So now you have some time and to figure this out.
Procrastinating, right?
Don't Saturday night be like, let me see who we're gonna get tomorrow. It'll be fun because we can start looking at, again, the path. And I think between all of us, I think that was smart to talk about Matthew as well, if he wants to do it. But it feels like we would be able to, because I know Pac-12 very well, and what's going on kind of on the West Side, West Coast, and things like that.
He's an SEC guy.
SEC, so we could. I feel like we'd be able to at least of relevance, the games and teams of relevance, we might be able to cover some background of. So
let's set it up.
This is a fun time. I'm looking forward to. Are we taking one last thing? Are we taking the show to New Orleans?
New Orleans, sure, yes, yeah.
Final Four.
Why not? We have to. If they make the Final Four, we got to get out there.
We got to get out there, right? Okay, all right. You heard it here, folks. First.
Yeah. We say that now, and then
I know,
we're like,
it's got a bar.
We can just watch on TV. All
right,
it's
exciting.
Well, I know you got to go, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll be back again Selection Sunday, or maybe that following Monday. We'll do something around there with the brackets and everything. So thanks for listening in, and we'll be back soon.